From the Beaver County Auto Studios, it's another Penguins Live chat here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Hey there, I'm Dan Kingerski. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a bit of a unique day. It's on Friday. I know these aren't the best days for chats, but I had a little something going on this week, family stuff that I really needed to attend to. So we couldn't do it on Wednesday, as we normally would have. Just future reminders, we do these the day after. I also have a cold, if you can't tell. Whenever you hang around with family, there's a bunch of little kids around, you know someone's going to snot all over you and get you sick. But we do these the following day after the Penguins' first game of the week. I think for the playoffs, we might switch to the evening. We'll see how the scheduling works out. It obviously is a little bit variable right now, but we'll let you know on Twitter. Make sure to follow me. Where is it? Where is it? There we are. Nope. Give me back. There we go. There's my Twitter handle. Follow me at the Dan Kingerski or at Pittsburgh PGH Hockey Now. Here's what we'll talk about today. We're going to talk about Phil Kessel, who had, I think, his best game of the season last night. We'll talk about Matt Murray, Ole Mata, Sidney Crosby, and, of course, all the stuff that you want to talk about as well. That's everything we're gonna hit. I do want to the family thing I had to take care of this week, or I had to spend some time with. On Saturday, I lost an uncle, and don't worry about offering me condolences. I feel weird taking them. It's not my life that was affected. Obviously, his immediate family certainly could use them. But one of the things that really struck me was he took his Penguins jersey with him. Amongst a couple other things included was his Penguins jersey. And that really struck me as, I don't know how it struck me, but it did strike me. I tend to forget, and I think maybe you and I both forget sometimes, how much a part of life the sports are and our teams are. And I forget my role in that sometimes. I get maybe too ensconced in trying to break it all down and figure it all out and pass along that information. And I forget maybe just how much fun this is supposed to be. Although I really enjoy the breaking down part. So it was just maybe a little note to pass along. That maybe all of this is supposed to be a lot of fun. It is for me. It's maybe not the same way that you enjoy it, but we're gonna make sure maybe we do have a little more fun. Speaking of that, say hello to my little friends here. You might recognize them. Here's a close-up. Take off, eh? This movie was shot in 3B. 3 beers and it looks good, eh? Bob and Doug are riding shotgun with me today. I didn't load any of the photos in. I just realized that. So I'm going to do that real quickly here while we talk. And the game last night against Detroit was important, I think, for several reasons. Obviously, making the playoffs for a 13th consecutive year. And if you didn't check out my article on Pittsburgh Hockey Now that I dropped about at 10:30, I was a madman this morning from 6 a.m. to the time I walked out of the house at 11 o'clock. I was just on my keyboard furiously writing with the Who record flipping. They beat Detroit. Okay. They should beat Detroit. There's no question there, correct? But Detroit really kind of took it to them on Tuesday night by doing certain things very well. Detroit used its speed, Detroit used its skill and creativity and got on the rush and got the Penguins on their heels. So Tuesday night, the Penguins really, look, they can say, we did some good things. I think we played well. No, they didn't. Results speak for themselves most of the time. You can look at the process and say, okay, we should have gotten a better result. Or you can look at the results and say, yeah, you got the result you deserved. On Tuesday, the Penguins got the result they deserved. They had a lot of one-and-dones what did I? The Penguins had more one-and-dones than John Calipari. They really did against Detroit Tuesday night. They'd come in, they'd get a decent shot on Jimmy Howard, and that was the end of it. What the Penguins made a point to do on Thursday night, which will translate directly to how they play the New York Islanders. And this is hopefully some of the stuff I can give you that other people aren't going to really get into. The Penguins can get down deep on the Islanders. They can push the Islanders into those battle zones. They can control the puck in the corners along the wall. If they do that, they will take away the Islanders' knees. They'll just chop them off at the knees. The Islanders won't have a game after that. Matthew Barzal is very good, and they've got some talent there. I almost wanted to say Kyle Okposo. But you know what I'm talking about there. The Islanders also have their top defenseman, Johnny Boychuk, especially. They're decent defenders, but the Penguins can get to them. The Penguins can grind them and wear them down. No matter how structured the Islanders are, no matter how gritty the Islanders want to be, if the Penguins play as they did Thursday night, take the puck low, force the defenders to play with them on their turf, and then spring to the net for those chances. It opens up the entire ice surface. Especially when the defensemen activated as they did last night. I want to talk a bit about this guy. No, he's not Dan Kingerski. Ole Mata last night really played well with Chris Letang. When Mata is rested and has energy, he really has been one of the Penguins' best defenders over the last couple years. The problem is those performances like last night get mixed in with the tired and the worn Ole Mata. And so when I know some fans are like, Ole Mata sucks! Sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's 180 degrees false. Last night, it was 180. Mata was really good Thursday night. You saw how he skated down low. And that's one thing the Islanders will try to do to the Penguins is clog the slot. That's what Detroit did, kind of pack the slot in. Barry Trotz loves to do that, pack the dots. Well, what the Penguins did was instead of trying to blast through it at the top, Penguins skated around and came at it from the backside. Sidney Crosby. Even Evgeny Malkin did it a couple times. Nick Bjugstad, that's his game, man. That is Nick Bjugstad's game to a T. And so when you've got your top nine doing that, attacking from the back end, essentially, going around the clog and attacking it where it's vulnerable, the Penguins were only credited with 2 rebound chances at 5-on-5. I'll get to your comments, don't worry. I've got just so much to unload and download here. The Penguins only had 2 rebound chances at 5-on-5, which ordinarily I would criticize them for. But the eye test said they probably had 8 to 10 rebound chances that just maybe that puck was magic at some points last night. It would just hop over Patrick Hornquist's stick. Nick Bjugstad gets a rebound out to the dots, has a glorious chance, and Jimmy Howard goes diving over. I don't know if Bjugstad missed the shot or if Howard just got a piece of it to deflect it wide. Regardless, that's a great rebound chance, and there was a lot to like. What there wasn't to like was how the Penguins kind of dozed off in the first 7 or so minutes of the second period. They began to take Detroit for granted. Detroit pushed them. Then the Penguins said, okay, kids, enough of that. Let me get to the chat board here. Great not to be surrounded by Caps fans. Oh, okay. Are there a lot of Caps fans that hop on this board? By the way, nah, I can't tell you. Pittsburgh hockey now has some big plans in the future. How's that? Hopefully it's the very near future. Playoff mantra for Phil. Please don't be a lazy scrub. Please don't be a lazy scrub. Let me get into this, too. Do I have the Phil Kessel photos? Give me 1 second to load in Dear Phil. Oh, that's Sid. We'll get to Sid. It's odd how sometimes the pictures don't stick. Here, we'll go with the picture you all love. Phil Kessel has 82 points this season. Now, that should be, oh my God, Kessel has 82 points, fantastic season, hands down, bar none, canonize him. But as he said last night, it's been a cold season for him. And not my kind of cold, but he's been ice cold this season. And what he means by that, now, he's not been getting the puck in the net. He's not been doing a good enough job doing that. Now, that compounds the fact that Phil Kessel doesn't have a lot of layers to his game. He doesn't go deep into the corners and grind and bang for the puck. He's not going to dish a couple hits and help wear down the opponent. And so Kessel has to score to be effective. And you're saying, well, Dan, 82 points. I know the Philbillies are like, dude, lay off. By his own admission, Kessel has been frustrated. And the coaching staff has been frustrated. They haven't actually said so. But I think I got a little bit out of Sullivan last week when I asked him what Kessel had to do to score at 5-on-5. And he kind of, Sullivan started slow, then started getting into it. Do this, do that. It's all on PittsburghHockeyNow.com. What Kessel did last night, which was such a role reversal. And for everybody who says, 82 points, he's playing well, that's like saying a movie grossed $100 million. It was a good movie. There's a lot of crap that grosses $100 or $200 million. For example, the Star Wars sequels. Sorry, couldn't resist. Kessel has not been very good this season. His 5-on-5 play has been below the line far too often. Look, he's got 74 turnovers, the third worst total of his career and worst with the Penguins. His plus-minus is woefully down in the red. And some players, the plus-minus is a garbage stat. For others, it's a legitimate testament to their play. With Kessel, it's a bit of a legitimate testament because he's so involved in the play. The puck is on his stick. And you factor that with the turnovers, and it all makes sense. And what that does, sure, he's gobbled up points. I think at last check, it was about 45% power play points. That'll get you points. That'll get you to the playoffs. That won't make you very successful. And I've probably done this speech before. Playoff success and late season success is predicated upon 5-on-5 scoring, penalty killing, power play. In that order, very specifically, because there aren't many power play chances. So even if you've got a great power play, the difference might be a goal over the course of a series. Even then, you can't guarantee that. So that's why 5-on-5 is so important. That tells you how strong your team really is. And Kessel has not been strong 5-on-5. Now, last night, where'd it go here? I've got the wrong Kessel article up. Let me pull it back up so I can reference it for you. Last night, Kessel said, you know me, I don't change. Oh, he changed. There is no question whatsoever that Phil Kessel played a different sort of game on Thursday night. Let's take his 2 goals for prime example. First goal, he's crashing the net. Bangs home. It wasn't quite a Sidney Crosby rebound, but it might as well have been. His second goal. What did Kessel do on number 2? He found open space, open ice, that open shooting lane, and he let it rip. I don't mean he threw it to the net. I mean he got on one leg and he absolutely fired it. That's the Phil Kessel that the Penguins need. The guy who's going to find. In fact, here's a picture of that shot. Come on up. Here we go. Let me hop back. There's Kessel taking the shot. On one leg. Look at the stick bend. It's got such a spin on it, it's difficult for goalies. And it was too difficult for Jimmy Howard. Those are the things Kessel needs to do. Find that open lane. Don't get frustrated and just fired into a pile of bodies. He's got the feet. He's got the ability to maneuver and move the puck and find the lane and keep going. Keep possession of it. Take a hit to make the play. Give a hit to take the puck. These are the things that Kessel's going to have to do going forward. Even just a little bit makes a huge difference, as you saw last night. All right, back to the chat board. Hey, Medina. Oh, where? Man, everyone's... So I'm going to try to go in order here. I apologize. Okay. When Dumo is back, Dumo, Letang, Mata, Schultz, Pedersen, Gutty. Another Jack Johnson guy, huh? Listen, Jack Johnson's part of the six. Figure out whatever else happens from there. Jack Johnson is part of the six. I think Jack Johnson outranks Marcus Pedersen. In fact, I essentially know so. You're going to see Jack Johnson on that PK. So what you might see is Mata go with Goodbranson or Johnson go with Goodbranson, pending the opponent. The Penguins might feel like Tampa Bay is a better Pedersen team, although I've liked the way Johnson played against Tampa. He thumped them this year. Hey, Chris. Well, the Isles continue to give the Penguins fits with their Trotz structure. Will the Pens' playoff experience and highly skilled players dispose the Isles in 5? All right, Chris, let's dive into this. I mentioned it at the top of the show just a little bit. Don't overrate the Penguins' experience. I mean, look, the Penguins won the Stanley Cup in 2016 with a pile of baggage, right? They had bad experience. They hadn't won a Stanley Cup in 6 years. That was their seventh, I guess their sixth try since they had won the Cup. Only a few guys had that experience and that ring. And the leaders from that 09 team, Gonchar and Guerin, and was Roberts? No, Roberts was 2000. Yeah, no, Gary Roberts. Yeah, he was on the 09 team, right? Or just the 08 team. Regardless, same point. That those leaders from the first go-around were gone. So don't overrate experience. What experience breeds is confidence. Confidence that when things are going sideways, you can take a deep breath and reset and get moving forward again. That's... Maybe I'm splitting hairs. Sorry, Chris. The Isles structure advantage will be minimized in the playoffs because other teams play structured as well. When everyone else battens down the hatches, when everyone else gets in sync and gets in form, that's when the Islanders' advantage is diminished. And that's why Barry Trotz, until last year, had never been past the second round. Because his teams are always underfunded, kind of, they have less talent. And that structure gets taken away when the other team can do it too. I expect the Penguins to have a tough series with the Islanders, but also a quick series. The Islanders will toss the kitchen sink at the Penguins. Maybe Lehner steals a game or two. But I otherwise think the Penguins are going to roll through the Islanders a bit like hot butter. You're going to see a bunch of 3-2 games, 3-1 with an empty netter kind of stuff. You're not going to see the wild insanity you saw in Philadelphia in round 1 last year, where the Penguins completely forgot themselves. Philadelphia forgot themselves, and it was just circus hockey. That was garbage in round one last year. You will not see that this year. The Penguins can grind on the Islanders, especially Bukestad, Hornquist. I like them in 5, and I like the Penguins' structure to be able to compete with the Islanders, especially with Letang back. And as you saw last night, when the Penguins can work that low to high game, or even just that low game, it opens everything back up. Big Chief Gaming. Hey, Dan, what do you think of Goodbranson's play and who gets scratched when Dumo is back? I think Goodbranson has been exceptional. Not necessarily each game as a defenseman specifically. Big Chief, let me ask you, how many cheap shots have you seen on the Penguins since February 23rd? Can you think of any? I don't think Bortuzzo's cross-check on Malkin was as egregious as a lot of people did. I mean, Jack Johnson does that to his opponents every game, right? Goodbranson does that to guys. Bortuzzo just happened to really catch Malkin, and I think in a bad spot. I don't necessarily think it was intentional. I mean, of course, the cross-check was intentional, but he didn't do it with the intention of almost puncturing a lung. So it wasn't as cheap as maybe even Malkin thought it was. That excluded, teams are respecting the Penguins so much more than they have in years past, have they not? So that alone, Goodbranson, has been worth the price of admission. Factor in the fact that right-left balance he provides has stabilized the third pairing in a way that they've sorely been missing. And he's been pretty good. He's activated a few times. He's gone down the wall. He's played the puck. I mean, he doesn't have great offensive instincts, but he's done pretty well. He doesn't get beat. He doesn't yield scoring chances when guys going around him. So I'd give him an A. Good win last night. Hope Crosby gets to 100 points and Gensel to 40 goals. When do you think we see Czar and Dumo back? We might know a bit more today. Shelly Anderson, and I guess practice was at noon. I was busy setting this up. I guess this, but also the show. Sullivan probably is talking now or talked a few minutes ago. Shelly Anderson will have some stuff on the website. As of last weekend, Aston Reese had just, I think, taken some ice and then taken some time off again. So, I don't know. I don't think we'll see Aston Reese for the start of the playoffs. And unless Dumoulin is in a non-contact jersey today, tomorrow, I don't think we'll see him for the start of the playoffs either. But what depth the Penguins have. That they can lose their top pairing left side guy and get performances like they've gotten from Mata, etc. You wouldn't have thought that at the beginning of the season, would you? I'm not sure I would have either. Okay, I'm rolling through the chats here. You know, I'm going to go right down to the bottom. If I've missed your question, repost it, and I'll get to it. Mutation, been quiet, makes it easier for me to approve stuff that isn't something that should be filled. Oh, talking about being a moderator. Actually, make sure everything's live here, because actually my screen had froze. Ain't that just pretty? So what else do we want to get to? I did mention Phil Kessel. I think I got sidetracked. Let's go back to Dear Phil. What you saw last night from Phil Kessel was so many things he hasn't done. I talked about the goals, and I guess that's where I got sidetracked. Kessel also played along the wall last night, in addition to going to the net. And he showed some urgency, hustling back on the back check. Now, sometimes Phil skates back into the defensive zone and then kind of looks like a kid at the mall who lost his parents, looking around like, what do I do now? Last night, he took a guy, he fought for the puck, caused a turnover or two even. You know, and when he does those things, it makes it very easy to forgive when he has a turnover. You're like, okay, you've done 5 good things, 1 bad thing. That's a good night. That's a good night for any player. It's on those nights when he does 2 bad things and 1 or 2 good things that when I criticize him, everyone gets, oh, you're trying to run Phil out of town. Don't leave, leave Phil alone. I don't necessarily care so much about public anger or criticism of my criticism. When I dish them, they're usually earned. If Kessel can play like that going forward, my gosh, the Penguins team suddenly becomes 3 and 4 lines deep. I don't know what they're going to have with that 4th line. I really don't. I didn't like bringing up Adam Johnson to sit him on the bench and play him 3 and 4 minutes. I really didn't like that. I thought that was kind of a waste. I thought Blandisi was actually kind of coming in to his role. He had earned 9 minutes of ice time in his final game. And, Blandisi is a little bit like a sane Bobby Farnham, which, if you know me, that's my kind of player. Let me, Diet Coke does not sponsor me. However, when you're battling Mother Nature a little bit, I enjoy the acidic nature on my throat. Not a beer, eh? Took the last jelly donut. Oh, anyway, give the dog a beer. Oh, hey, Tom Wilson's going to see his first time at a Penguins game, seeing Phil Kessel, Nick Bukestad, Jared McCann, Branson, Simone. I'm reading all the numbers. He posted the numbers. I'm just Simone, Rust, Pedersen, and Bluger. Okay, Ryan has a question. If the Penguins and Islanders lose tomorrow and Carolina wins their last game, will that keep an Islanders Pens first round? No. If the Penguins lose in regulation and Carolina wins in regulation or overtime, Carolina would take 3rd place because then they would have 1 extra ROW. Now, if Carolina were to win in the shootout, let me check the standings real quick. Because that would mean if Carolina would win in the shootout, then they would have the same number of wins in regulation at 42. Oh, no, I take that back. Yes, if Carolina wins anyway on Saturday and the Penguins lose without getting a point, Carolina gets 3rd place. And the Penguins would have to face Washington. So tomorrow night against the Rangers is by no means a throwaway. Yeah, Carolina has 43. ROW's Pens only have 42. However, the Penguins gain a point. They play 1 second of overtime hockey. They have got 3rd place. Now, the Penguins can also get 2nd place if the Islanders lose to Washington without getting a point, and the Penguins win in overtime or regulation, then the Penguins would get home ice over the Islanders. Got all that? All right, so yeah, who do we think is going to sneak into that final wild card? Do you care if Columbus or Montreal does? I'm torn on that because I love Columbus, the organization, what they've done. They've treated me exceptionally well over the years, and I like John Tortorella as a coach, as a person. Actually, as a person, he's fantastic. He is a great guy. So, in that sense, I'm rooting for Columbus. I also think Columbus could give Tampa a bit of a run, which would be interesting, wouldn't it? If Sergei Bobrovsky stops some pucks His going away present to the Blue Jackets. He actually makes some saves in April. Yeah, if Columbus wins tonight, they clinch, right? Yeah, that's Columbus's deal. Okay, so where else do I want to go? Here's another guy I want to bring up and talk about. I don't necessarily understand. Well, yes, I do. The vitriol that gets tossed towards Matt Murray. He was brilliant in those 10 minutes of the second period last night. And even in the first period, the Penguins trailed 1-0. Here comes Ferk on a breakaway. If Ferk scores, it's 2-0. And you want to talk about a pucker factor? 18,500 and some odd fans would have puckered hard enough to create diamonds. Tom Wilson, you don't like torts. Let me tell you something. Okay, put a pin in that, Tom Wilson. I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to take you behind the curtain just a little bit. Let's talk about Murray right now. Since he came back on December 15th, Matt Murray's save percentage is above .940, and I believe his goals against is sub-2. Last night was only win number 29. And yes, there were a couple whiffs in that 2-week time when the Penguins yielded a couple of those late games, giving up the tying goal, etc. There were a couple whiffs there. He knew it. But look at the body of work since December 15th when he got himself right. He's been, generally speaking, a brick wall. And there are two guys that the Penguins really can't win a Stanley Cup without. Sidney Crosby and Matt Murray. If Matt Murray gives those A-plus performances and Sidney Crosby gives A-plus performances, and the second line with Malkin and Kessel don't give F performances, if they can keep it at worst case scenario, a C level, tread water, the Penguins will be in the Eastern Conference Final. If Malkin and Kessel give B and A performances with Crosby and Murray, I think the Penguins have a 50-50 shot. And I have to think about this a little bit more. But that would be a slobber knocker of a series against Tampa Bay. Okay, so let me get back to John Tortorella a little bit. In addition, well, let me explain it this way. And it was explained to me years ago because I actually worked indirectly for Torts when I was in the minors. Tampa Bay owned the team that I worked for. And so we were involved. And so, you know, I got to know a bit about him. I heard the backroom stories. And John Tortorella falls in love with his players. He will go to the mat for his guys. By the same token, he expects his guys to go to the mat for him. And that's why Columbus has been so successful over the last, what is it? When did he take over? In 15? 16? For the last 4-5 years, they've been so successful because they got Cam Atkinsons and the Ryan Dubinskis, the wingnut Ryan Dubinsky. And they got some of these crazy guys who will go to the mat for Tortorella. He truly has his team. And sure, he pops off emotionally. But wouldn't you rather have a guy who cares that damn much, who wears his heart on his sleeve, than a guy who doesn't? And what he's done for their organization has been amazing. Tortorella has turned around the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were really floundering. I don't know if you remember, 2012-13, there was talk that Columbus was in trouble. They were losing money. Nationwide might pull out. It was, the arena wasn't making as much money as they all had hoped, and Columbus was a small market anyway. They'd never won a playoff series. Well, they still haven't, but they, made the playoffs one time. There was real concern, a real undercurrent of concern about their future. And next year, they might be kind of back on that same path again without all the stars that they've cultivated, like Panarin and such. But Tortorella, if you're on his team, you're on his side, there's nobody better you want to go to war with, and I can respect that. Even if he gets a little heated sometimes and insults your team, it's because he feels insulted by your team. He's really a great guy. He's somebody you want in the foxhole with you, that's for sure. Let's see here. Even though Crosby was in a swamp until last night. Train fan, you mean slump? Or swamp, I guess that works. Do you think he has still played pretty well? Yeah. Yeah. Crosby had a couple C performances. Left his guy go. You know, guys were scoring goals, scored a couple goals on him, which is very un-Crosby-like. No, otherwise, Crosby's bad night is still most other players' B-plus night. Heck, maybe even A. So, yeah. Do I think Crosby played well even when he wasn't scoring? Absolutely. A Tampa Bay CBJ series might be really interesting. Absolutely, Daniel. If there's one team besides the Penguins who could knock out, I guess the Penguins can't fall there either. So if there's one of those three teams that could give Tampa a real run, it is most certainly Columbus. I haven't watched one of their games. Maybe I'll watch tonight. Is Foligno back yet? Is he back with the team, or is he still dealing with his family matter? So keep those questions and chats coming, only because I feel like at this point, and just the week I've had, the cold, I'm not on 8 cylinders today. I'm gutting through it, you know what I mean? I'm trying to win without my best stuff. And so you guys have to help me out. By the way, here's my son and Meatball. There's Leo, who just is so proud of himself. Can't quite walk yet. His feet are still like just little globs of fat. Just turned 9 months old. But, he pulls himself up on everything. He stands. He's strong enough to walk. Just can't find the balance with feet, like just little cinder blocks is what he's got for feet right now. Yeah, you got over the flu. I never get sick. Of course, I never spend time around kids anymore either. That's why I don't get sick. They're like, I don't know. They must roll in germs or something. Generally speaking, I don't get sick but once every few years. And if I feel it coming on, I run to the grocery store. I get cold ease. Or Zambucol, like the blackberry stuff, and I just bomb my body with it for days. And it usually works. But for whatever reason, this one caught me really fast. Last night, it hit me, and here's a gross story for you. My nose was running at like a faucet, literally. I was sitting there and just stuff started, what is going on here? So I had to kind of sit there with a tissue. I've never had this. What kind of flu is this that's going around? And who gave it to me? I think you should be allowed to assault whomever gave you a cold or a flu. You should be able to trace it back and just pound on them. That's fair, right? Equal justification. So what else do you want to do here? We've already done 40 minutes. I think we're about to wrap this one up, being a short one. And next week we will make our playoff predictions. We'll probably do an early show, say next Tuesday before the playoffs go. I have all of my predictions. On Pittsburgh Hockey Now, I'm going to have a full breakdown of whomever the Penguins' opponent is. I'll hit the chalkboard and I'll really break down. One thing last night I noted in the PHN Extra report card that I want to call your attention to was what the Red Wings tried to do to the Penguins' power play. It's very much the same thing that the Islanders have done. And so, therefore, it's maybe a bit more relevant. What the Red Wings did, instead of the box with the four corners, oftentimes the Islanders would drop the backside point man to the slot to cut off that cross ice pass. And Christopher, is it Een, number 70, was dropping back into the slot. And I found it amusing to watch him looking over his shoulder, trying to find Malkin or Kessel to stay between the puck and them. And it worked. Until Sidney Crosby took all the open space and skated down the wall towards the back of the net. And then when he did that, he flipped everything. That's when, I guess that's when Kessel got his goal down low. And that's what the Penguins started to do 5-on-5. Detroit wanted to clog the slot. The Penguins went around them and flipped it on them. But that was really it was good coaching. It was smart hockey. The Islanders will not make it as easy as Detroit did on them. The Islanders will rough them up. They will make them pay the toll to get down the wall. Even if they're clogging the slot, the Islanders won't let them have free reign like Detroit did. If Detroit wants to go anywhere, they've got enough talent. They're going to have to add some physicality, some sandpaper to their lineup. They're really too easy to play against. You know, in that sense, they reminded me a lot of Edmonton. Good talent throughout the lineup, but just don't make it difficult enough on the opponent to win a hockey game. All right, let's see. Pretty sure a child gave me the flu, so pounding them would be a bad idea. Would it really? I mean, I'm in favor of more kids and corporal punishment. Can I say that without losing 1,000 followers? I'm in favor of some old school discipline. I kid. I didn't really ever use that method when I was a parent of a small child. It really is kind of pointless, but every now and then, boy, you'd like to act like your grandparents did, wouldn't you? Tom Wilson would root for CBJ over Tampa. Woo! So what do you think? Line up their predictions here. You go ahead. You tell me, if it's not the Penguins, who makes it to the Eastern Conference Final? Is it Washington? I don't think Carolina has much of a shot because Carolina will not get through Washington and the Penguins. Carolina pushed the Capitals a couple of weeks ago. They had 2 games in the span of 4 or 5 days. Carolina pushed the Capitals. Hey, look at us. And then somewheres about the second period, the Capitals got a little annoyed. And then the men took over, and the boys were relegated. The Capitals won both, and Carolina was kind of put in their place. A bit like what the Penguins did to Carolina on Sunday. Although the Penguins didn't do it with quite the authority that the Capitals did. And it's not going to show up on a stat sheet, but it's taking the puck low. It's winning more puck battles than you lose. It's charging into the battle zones and the scoring areas. It's charging in there with some confidence and authority and making the other team have to work harder than you have to work. The Capitals did that, and the Penguins did that to Carolina too. Carolina is another team that isn't deep enough necessarily to win a playoff series. Jordan Staal will have to do a lot for Carolina to take out Washington. I don't think Staal has quite that much in him. Aho's going to be in for a rude awakening Jack Johnson. Johnson roughed up Aho a good bit when the Penguins won 3-1 Sunday night, didn't he? And Aho's going to have to learn to play like that. He's not going to get protection from the referees in the playoffs. He's going to get bounced around quite a bit. And there'll be some legal and extra-legal hits on Aho. He's going to have to learn how to deal with that and power through. This is their first experience with it as a team. And I think that's going to show, especially against experienced, grizzled teams like Washington and the Penguins. Does DeSmith start tomorrow? I would. I would start Casey DeSmith tomorrow. Even though the Penguins could fall to the wild card, I have enough confidence in Casey DeSmith where everyone else is going to play. Don't get me wrong. Crosby plays, Malkin plays. Everyone plays on Saturday against the Rangers. It's not like the Rangers are a physical team that's going to exact a toll, but we've seen too many times. What, 3 times? Penguins goalie's been injured in the last couple games of a season and missed the start of the playoffs. Penguins can win with Casey DeSmith, and quite frankly, putting DeSmith in there might focus the team a bit more. That's Sullivan's call. I guess maybe that's what it comes down to, right? If Sullivan believes that putting DeSmith in the net will focus his team, then you do it. If you worry that it sends the wrong message and guys might relax because it's a backup, okay, then you don't. Then you do start Matt Murray. I fall on the former, not the latter, but Sullivan knows his team a bit better than I do. I hope. All right. That does it for me today. I appreciate y'all hopping on here. I've given it a good 48 minutes. Check out Pittsburgh Hockey Now. I mean, I think there's some great content on there today from the Penguins in the locker room reacting to 13 straight years. I mean, think about this. In 2006-07, W was president. Trump was a reality star. Obama had just finished his freshman year as a senator. I think he'd voted present a few times. And there was no Twitter. Sidney Crosby was a teenager. Chris Letang was a teenager. Malkin was 20. Marc-Andre Fleury was the only guy who could buy them beer. Think about that. That's when they started making the playoffs. Then you go back to 05-06 and that debacle, Craig Patrick's final year, when they dove into the free agent market with Ziggy Palffy and Jocelyn Thibault and Sergei Gonchar. And if you're not old enough to remember or just have forgotten, Sergei Gonchar was bad until about February. He was thought of as a colossal failure on a 5-year, $25 million contract. Oh, people were wringing their hands. Had there been Twitter, Gonchar would have been the Jack Johnson of 2005-06. He really had people upset. And then about February, it all clicked. For him, not the team. That's when Crosby kind of really was stepping up as well. But that team finished next to last. They had 58 points, and I think St. Louis had 57 points. So then 13 years hence, the Penguins have made the playoffs. Oh, was John LeClaire on that 05-06 team? Or did he come around and... Yeah, I guess he was. Yes. Because I don't know if you know some of the stories about that. There were some veterans mistreating Sidney Crosby. And I've heard Edzo tell the story publicly, so I'll keep it to Edzo's public version. Edzo kind of grabbed a guy out in the hallway one night and was pretty blunt. That's your franchise. That kid's going to be the captain. Knock it off. I'm sure the language is a bit more colorful than that. And Edzo talked about knowing he lost the room in that moment because the room was all these old guys and a couple of the kids with Sidney Crosby. In fact, I don't even think Marc-Andre Fleury was with that team, was he? He played his handful of games at the start of the season and then was 05-06. Was he in Wilkes-Barre or back in Cape Breton? I don't recall, and I apologize. But Fleury wasn't there. Letang had played, wasn't there yet either. Letang hadn't yet been drafted in 05-06. So, or he had been drafted but hadn't shown up yet. He didn't play 7 games until 06-07. But regardless, I mean, there's, yeah, Recchi was on that team. Yeah, there was a bunch of veterans who didn't really pull their weight in 05-06. It was really, that was when the country club jumped the shark. That was the last moments of Mario's country club. Was Bergevin there? Or was that before the lockout, they brought Marc Bergevin in just so Mario would have some company on that terrible team? So there we go. I've addressed the DeSmith thing. Now you got me up to 52 minutes. Ask me another question like that, and I'll probably spout out another 5-minute answer. So, for Bob and Doug, and their 3 beers, eh? And the jelly donut. You know, one of our office suite neighbors was a big fan of these guys, too, and he saw me putting them up, and was like, oh, do you remember when the brakes went out in the van? And so Doug just, yeah. What difference does it make, eh? Like, no, you have to hold the steering wheel. It's like, what difference does it make? Anyway, there you go. All right. Last picture I'll show you, just because that cracks me up. So for Bob, for Doug, for the crew at Pittsburgh Sports Live, I'm Dan Kingerski. We'll talk to you again real soon.